Ethan and Noah had been inseparable once, like two halves of the same thought. Their laughter often filled the quiet corners of their neighborhood, and their days were painted with bike rides, video games, and secrets only they shared. But as time moved forward, a subtle distance grew between them. It wasn't marked by a fight or harsh words. It was quieter than that, almost like the fading of a summer sunset, soft, unnoticed at first, but undeniable when darkness finally settled in. Ethan felt it more deeply than he ever admitted. At 16, he found himself standing at the edges of crowded hallways at school, watching Noah drift into new groups of friends, his voice rising in conversations Ethan was no longer part of. It wasn't betrayal, it was simply life moving on. But to Ethan, it carried the weight of abandonment. Every time he passed Noah in the cafeteria, sitting at a table Ethan no longer belonged to, the distance carved a little deeper inside him. He started to wonder about the truth of friendship. Was it as fragile as a paper boat, carried away the moment the waters of life grew uncertain? Or was it supposed to withstand the winds and storms that inevitably came? In those late nights when silence filled his room, Ethan replayed old memories, like a song he couldn't stop humming, both comforting and painful. Noah's absence left Ethan with questions that gnawed at him. Maybe friendships weren't meant to last forever. Maybe people outgrew one another. The thought was sharp, cutting into the trust Ethan had always carried. His world felt smaller, like a once bright canvas now painted in muted shades of grey. And yet, despite this growing distance, there remained a quiet longing within him. A part of Ethan still hoped that Noah's absence didn't mean indifference. He wanted to believe that the bond they had wasn't completely gone, that perhaps it was only buried under the noise of high school changes. But the silence between them spoke louder than hope, and Ethan learned to hide his ache behind a mask of indifference. It was in this fragile state, where memories pressed against loneliness, that Ethan's life would take an unexpected turn. A sudden crack in the ordinary days would force him to face the truth of friendship in a way he never imagined. The first sign that something was wrong came as a faint dizziness, the kind Ethan brushed off as exhaustion. But by the third day, when the dizziness turned into chest pains and his vision blurred, the quiet concern of his parents became urgency. Within hours, he found himself in a hospital bed, monitors blinking beside him, the sterile air carrying the weight of uncertainty. For Ethan, the hospital was more than a place of healing. It was a mirror reflecting his solitude. His friends from school sent the occasional message, short bursts of sympathy that faded as quickly as they arrived. But the silence from Noah was deafening. Ethan's heart, already strained by illness, felt heavier under the weight of that absence. He told himself not to expect anything, not to hope. But in the stillness of the hospital nights, his mind returned to Noah again and again. He thought about how easily people disappeared when life became difficult. Friendship seemed to thrive in laughter, in the golden light of good days. But here, surrounded by the sterile beeps of machines, there was no laughter, only waiting, only fear, and no Noah. As days blurred together, Ethan began to sink into a quiet despair. He watched the rain outside his window, streaking the glass like tears the sky couldn't hold back. Each drop felt like a reminder of the distance between him and the boy who once felt like family. In that loneliness, Ethan asked himself if he had been foolish to believe that friendship could be something unshakable. Maybe, he thought, he had expected too much. Nurses came and went, their kindness steady but impersonal. His parents tried to stay strong, but even their presence couldn't touch the hollow ache inside him. At night, when the world seemed to fold in on itself, Ethan whispered the truth to himself. He missed Noah more than he had words to admit. And that missing wasn't just about companionship, it was about the unspoken promise of always being there, a promise that seemed broken now. Then, one afternoon, as sunlight broke through the clouds for the first time in days, the door to his hospital room opened. Ethan looked up, expecting another nurse. Instead, it was Noah, standing there with a hesitant smile, holding a bag of snacks in one hand. The sight stole Ethan's breath. It wasn't just relief, it was the sudden unraveling of days of loneliness. Yet, mixed with that relief was doubt. Would this be a fleeting visit, just an obligation, or was it something more? Ethan didn't know then that this was only the beginning of the answer he had been searching for. From that day forward, Noah returned again and again. Every morning after school, the door to Ethan's hospital room creaked open, and there he was, sometimes with homework, sometimes with snacks, sometimes with nothing more than his presence. At first, Ethan tried to mask his surprise, keeping conversations short, afraid to hope too much. But Noah never wavered. His visits weren't filled with grand gestures or dramatic words. They were steady, like the quiet heartbeat of loyalty that Ethan hadn't realized he needed so desperately. There were afternoons when Noah would simply sit in the chair by Ethan's bed, scrolling on his phone while Ethan dozed off. There were evenings when they shared silence, broken only by the hum of machines. Yet in that silence, Ethan felt something more healing than medicine, the reassurance that he wasn't forgotten. Friendship, he realized, didn't always need words. Sometimes it was as simple as showing up when no one else did. As the days passed, the walls Ethan had built around his heart began to crack. The resentment he once carried for Noah's absence faded, replaced by a growing gratitude. He started to see that life had pulled them apart, not because their bond was weak, but because sometimes people drift, only to find each other again when it matters most. One evening, as twilight painted the sky in soft shades of purple, Ethan found the courage to speak. He told Noah about the loneliness, about the doubts that had haunted him in the quiet nights. He admitted how much he thought their friendship had ended. Noah listened, his face still, his eyes carrying the weight of unspoken regret. Then he simply said he was sorry not for moving on, but for not realizing sooner how much Ethan still needed him. That apology, simple and raw, broke something open inside Ethan. He felt the weight of weeks lift off his chest. More than that, he realized that Noah's presence here, every day, was not just an apology, it was proof. Proof that friendship is not measured in constant laughter or daily closeness. It is tested in moments of pain, when standing beside someone means more than any words could express. When Ethan was finally discharged from the hospital, Noah was there, walking beside him as he stepped back into the world. The air felt different, lighter, as if the storm had passed and left behind a sky washed clean. Ethan knew their friendship might never look exactly like it had before, but that no longer mattered. What mattered was the truth revealed in those days of hardship. True friends stand strong when life hurts, and with that knowledge, Ethan carried not just healing in his body, but a renewed belief in the kind of bond that survives the storm. There are moments in life that reveal what words cannot. Friendship is not about who laughs with us in the sunshine, but who stands quietly by our side in the storm. Ethan's story reminds us that distance does not mean the end, and silence does not mean the absence of care. When life hurts, the friends who stay are the ones who matter most. Hold close to those who prove their love, not with promises, but with presence. If this story touched you, please like, share, and subscribe for more tales that inspire reflection and hope.